How might the UK best manage the transition back to work? So, on the 4th of July, British business is going to be allowed to reopen. So, in less than 2 weeks, companies will be reaching out to people to ask them to return to work. The thing that I found really interesting about this is that what I haven't noticed in the political coverage and the news is the recognition that we have in the past 3 months been facing an existential crisis. So when we are confronted with death as human beings, we often take the opportunity to revisit our lives and how we're living our lives. So the reason that I think that's quite important here in this topic is simply because the people who left you at the end of March might have changed quite significantly in their aspirations when they return in July. But how ready are people really? So I think this is where your managers can really come into their own, because managers who are reaching out to their people now to have conversations with them about what was their experience of lockdown, how has it impacted them, what does their ideal return to work plan look like, is really timely. I think that there will be some people who are itching to get back to work because they just want to get out of lockdown. I'm one of those, absolutely. There are other people who will, even the thought of returning to work will trigger the same anxiety potentially as was triggered at the end of March when the pandemic hit. So getting a real sense of people's expectations, people's commitments, and how they would like to try and balance their commitments is really important. So get your managers to have those conversations now. The second thing is this phrase, back to work. Back to work sort of suggests that, oh, great, we're back to how it was before the pandemic hit. And of course, as we all know, history doesn't work in reverse, so we can never go back, of course, to the way it was. So I think this is more about reorientation around the new world. So what that means is being very clear at this point about what we need to stop, start and keep on doing. So in the light of the recent poll that was run, I think last week by the Sun newspaper, that found that 44% of people, or 44% of their readers who responded to the survey, said that they did not feel safe coming back to work. One of the things you're really going to want to highlight, of course, is your arrangements around safety, around health surveillance, around social distancing. What you also might want to talk about is what you're stopping. So the things that all of those rules, will prevent us doing from this point on. This could be practices, it could be opening of cafes or, restaurants. It could be things around travel, things around start time, or whatever it might be. The things that you can encourage people to keep on doing are also really important. So building a sense of community again after 3 months away for people who making it okay for people to ask for help, making it really clear that it's fine. If you need help, you just need to ask. Making it clear that, we're here to look out for each other, and making it really clear that, we're here to help each other when those requests come out. So all of those things, will provide a really good foundation for people in terms of their expectations. The final thing I wanted to mention was the fact that this is one transition of many. So firstly, the virus, as we all know, is not going away. We also have Brexit around the corner, and there will be other things that follow around the economy, following some of the projections that are being published at the moment. So if people have their own tools and practices that they can employ quite readily, that will be really important to organisational survival, if you like. So the first is around self-awareness. So helping people to build their self-awareness, firstly around how they react to change, and secondly around the emotions that they're experiencing at any given time. So helping people to firstly notice, then name, and then make a choice on how they respond to that emotion will be really important. And of course, once we know that for ourselves, we're more able and more emotionally intelligent around other people. The other thing is building resilience. So people returning to work are already resilient. They have tools, practices, beliefs that have got them through the last 3 months. So helping them to recognize what those things were and where they came from. So if it's, for some people it's, I have to have a routine or a health regime, or I have to have downtime and reflection time, whatever those practices might be, help people to recognize what they already do. And then secondly, help them to recognize where that resilience comes from. It could be from somebody who really inspired them when they were young. It could be simply because they're very self-aware, but helping them to recognize the resilience tools and practices they already have is really important. The final thing is the ability to be really good at change. So I don't intend to repeat what I've said on a previous recording here, but I think there's something about helping people to experiment with new ways of working, with new behaviours, and that requires explicit permission to experiment, permission to fail. So if you can build those sorts of environments and that sort of culture around your teams, that will help you to manage and pivot when future changes hit. Okay, that's it for me for today. Next week, I'm going to be talking about how can we contain our organisation's anxiety and take care of ourselves. So thank you very much for listening. Hopefully see you next week, and take care of yourself. Bye now.